Today we're going to look at how to teach reading comprehension to elementary and middle school students. Hey there, I'm Charlotte with Colorful Teaching for You. Thank you so much for joining me. If you have ever taught reading comprehension, you know that it is really difficult because some students may be able to read and decode fluently, but they may not be able to understand some of the concepts or what they're reading. And for others, even that is too difficult. So every child varies depending on where they're at with their reading comprehension, so we try to teach it to them. Now, reading comprehension is really important because it really helps a child develop their metacognitive skills, their visual comprehension, and also engages them in cooperative discussion with their peers. It has, beyond just that, it allows them to develop their beyond reading, allows them to develop their writing, speaking, and listening skills. So it's really just comprehensive there. It also teaches them to be able to develop their ability to make inferences, to reason, which is really important in this day and age, to develop their oral and grammatical expression, and to improve their understanding of what they're reading, and of figurative language, which is tricky to teach kids, eh? So there's a lot that goes into it. Finally, it also develops their vocabulary, which we really do need over time. Okay, so let's get into how to do this. There's 3 different steps that I implement in my classroom. The first one is model for your students. So what I do there is I actually will read aloud to my students, and you would do the same. And then we talk about the book itself. We take turns figuring out what's happening by assessing their prior knowledge. We also look at predicting what might happen next. We take a look at vocabulary that they might not understand, and we learn how to chunk it up, and we also learn the meaning of the words so that they know how to use it again. And it also commits it to memory if you're doing it in different ways, like looking at the word, chunking it up, and then looking at the meaning and how to use it in a sentence. We also discuss or summarize what's going on in the story overall, so that kids are constantly learning how to think, and when they watch me read to them and ask these questions, they are learning how to think on a deeper level than just looking at the book itself. Okay. Number 2 is group them. So here I look at, I assess students to see what reading level they might be at, and then I group them based on their reading level, so that children are, are grouped with who they need to be with, so that they are able to have discussions with them. Here what I do is I give them age-appropriate books so that they can have a discussion about what they're reading. So every few pages, every few chapters, we stop and we have a little discussion, or we come together and we have a discussion, and while they're discussing their what they've read, I teach them how to summarize, so that they are able to summarize what they've read to their group, but also to the classroom as a whole, so everybody's learning from each other. And while they're discussing, I walk around so that I can see who needs extra support, who's not quite on there, and who needs me to help them extend their learning, or who's getting it, and we praise them for it. So we are looking at different ways. It also creates a safe environment for your kids to be able to ask questions in that, because it's just a few kids at a time instead of asking questions to a whole class. That can be a bit daunting for some kids. So this is a great way to keep them safe and learning at the same time. The third thing I do is focus on in-depth learning. So once they have read the entire book and they're ready to go, we now apply their learning in a project-based learning way. And I've actually created 2 resources. So if you click the link associated with this episode, it says full episode, you can go right to the article and it gives you the link to the resources, where I created it for my class because it allows us to take what we've learned and go into depth with it, and to really explain it to not just our little group, but to our class as well, so we're all engaged in different material. It becomes a lot more fun, a lot more real life applicable to them, and it engages them also not just in reading but also in writing, because they are now learning, they're taking the vocabulary and all the other things that they've learned, and they're now putting it into practice. So there's a whole bunch of things you can do with reading comprehension. Let's recap what we talked about. First, we looked at the importance of teaching reading comprehension, because it develops so much of our students' abilities. And the next thing we looked at is 3 different ways that we can implement it in our classroom. 1 is to model for your students. Number 2 is group them. And number 3 is focus on in-depth learning. If you have any questions, please feel free to message me. In the meantime, remember to create, experience, and teach from the heart. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you later. Take care. Bye.